Hello, my name's Andy Ruffell from eTechnics.com and welcome to another video review. Today we're looking at the Xigmatek Midgard White Knight medium-sized case. Before we actually look at the case, I want to talk about the accessories that come with it. Now when you actually open up the case, you'll be greeted with this black box, and inside there is lots of accessories. So to start off, we have a user's guide, installation guide, which talks through the contents, the specifications and installing it in many different languages. You also get these rubber grommets for water cooling. You get a fan speed controller with the Xigmatek logo on there. This is to go into the back of the case on the PCIe expansion slot. You get the fan speed controller cables to connect all your fans on there, and this end will obviously go to the fan speed controller. Power for the fan speed controller, Molex into a 2-pin. You also get a screw to actually screw the fan speed controller down into place. You get locks and lots of screws, fixtures, fittings in here. You do get the motherboard stops as well, but the rest of the screws are actually black, which is a really nice idea because obviously it's a white case. You also get a speaker because some cases don't actually have them. This gives you the option if you want it. You can just plug that straight onto your motherboard header and out into the speaker. And you also get 3 cable ties, which are a little bit different to your traditional cable ties in the fact that they don't sort of lock into place and you have to cut them to get them open. These just slot all your cables in there and lock it back down into place. So let's start off by looking at the front of the case. Straight away you can see that the whole front is white, and you can see that it's also got 5 drive bays here which are ventilated, but the last one has actually got a smaller cutout for a floppy drive or some sort of memory card reader or any device that's that size. You can also see down below that it has got ventilation there, and behind there is a 120mm fan with white LEDs. You can also see that the Xigmatek logo is embossed onto there. Connection wise, we've got a headphone port, 2 USB ports, microphone port and eSATA port. Generally with cases you would expect a Firewire port, but not many people use them these days, and I'm guessing that's why Xigmatek have left that out and exchanged it for an eSATA port instead. Now for one reason or another you may want to take the front panel off of this, and generally it's a very easy task. You just have to sort of leverage it from each corner until it prizes away. And once you take it off, you can actually look at the inside of the panel, and you can see that it's got removable dust filters on all of the drive bays and also on this panel down here, which, as I said, behind that would be a 120mm white LED fan. Now taking a look at the front of the case without the panel on there, we can see that one cutout is already gone because most people generally only use one drive, generally a DVD rewriter. Underneath that though you can see these metal plates, which is just a matter of sort of leaning it backwards and forwards until it comes off. Underneath we can see all the ventilated holes, and behind there you should be able to see the 120mm white LED fan. You can also see that there's a hole here, here and here. That is so you can actually get different size fans. So for instance you could have an 80mm fan, 90mm fan, the 120 which is already in there pre-installed, or even a 140mm fan, depending on your preference. Taking a look at the top of the case, you can see that the ventilated holes that we saw on the front actually pan across the whole top of it, because you can get fans to go on the top of this case. Also on the top of the case you'll see that we've got the power button, the hard drive activity LED and power LED, and the reset button. Now taking a look at the right side of the case, we can see once again follows the same colour scheme with the whole case being white. We can see these ventilation holes down here and also some up here. Now I believe you can actually fit optional fans on here, but it doesn't come with them as standard. So if you did decide to fit a fan here, it would actually help in aiding to cool down the hard drive systems. Obviously all your hard drives will go in a bay just there, so that will help dissipate heat with regards to the hard drives. Now if you decided to fit a fan up here, it would be right underneath where the processor would go on your motherboard, so obviously that will aid in cooling down your CPU. When we actually looked at the specifications of this case and we found out about the optional fans, it didn't really list too much about the right side, but on the left side you can clearly see where the fans would go. We've got one space with ventilation holes here and also one here. Now looking at the size of it, you could fit a 140mm fan, 120mm, 90mm or 80mm. And taking a look at the fan at the bottom of the side, you can see that the actual fan that would go on here would be either a 120mm fan or a 140mm fan. And now taking a look at the back of the case, we can see straight away that there are 2 holes here which you would need to punch out the metal panels for, and put them water cooling grommets in, and then obviously you can feed your water cooling tubes through there. Underneath we can see that it has a pre-installed fan. Now the fan on the back is actually a 120mm white LED fan. As I say, that's already pre-installed, but if you wanted you could change it for either a 90mm fan or an 80mm fan. So this is a very versatile case in terms of cooling. You can also see that you have ventilation holes down here, another 2 ports there for water cooling tubes. We can see exactly where the I/O panel is, where your motherboard ports would go. You can see that we have 7 ventilated expansion PCI slots, and also you can see where the power supply would go down the bottom. Obviously with older cases the power supply would normally be at the top, but case manufacturers have found that it's a better solution to add the power supply down the bottom. Now taking a look at the actual sides of the case nearer the back, we can see that there are 4 thumb screws, which is very easy because obviously you don't need to break out any tools, you can just take them off with your fingers and thumbs. Now taking a look at the inside of the case, I love the way that the colour scheme sort of follows with regards to the outside of the case on the inside. A lot of case manufacturers try and cut costs by obviously having the outside looking very pretty, but end up having the inside just the bland, boring, standard silver. Now Xigmatek have actually painted the whole of the inside of this case white as well. The motherboard tray, all the panels and brackets for hard drives, CD-ROM drives and so forth. Straight away you can see that the fan on the back has a 3-pin fan connector, and also the one on the front has a 3-pin fan connector. Looking at some of the other cables, we can see that these sets of cables actually come from the top of the case where we spoke about with regards to the LEDs and power buttons, and they are all nicely labelled: hard drive LED, power LED, reset switch, and another power LED. You can also see that this one is the power switch. Now there are a few other cables as well which route to the front of the case. Now taking a look at these, clearly labelled once again, HD audio or AC97, that's for the audio, headphones and the microphone. You can also see that we have a serial ATA connector, which is obviously for the eSATA port. And then we have another one here for USB. Taking a closer look inside the case, as I spoke about, the motherboard tray is completely painted white, and you can see that there are various different holes for cable management. Firstly, you've got this little window up here, so in regards to that, it's easy to fit a new backplate to the motherboard if you are changing your motherboard or changing the type of processor. You can also see that there's slots all the way down here and a couple at the bottom as well. That is for cable management, so you can route all your cables and still maintain a good looking case with easy cable management. Now taking a look at the bays up here, which are obviously for CD-ROMs, DVD-ROMs, DVD writers and so forth. As said, you would need to punch out one of the holes on the front and take off the ventilated front on the panel, and once you've done that you can slide your drive in and you have got a locking mechanism here, so it's just push in and push to that side to lock it. Very simple. To unlock it, it's just the opposite, push in and to the left, and you can actually feel that the locking mechanism comes out. Very, very simple with that. With regards to hard drives, a little bit different but still relatively simple. You've actually got these cages down here, so you just pull in and pull out, and you can see that it has got these sort of rubber grommets on there, so obviously that helps with vibration properties. So when you actually slot your hard drive in, it's just a matter of lining up the holes that are already on the hard drive and using the screws that come with it to screw this down. Once you've done that, you can continue to slot it back into place, and you'll find that it actually clicks into place and won't come out. And now taking a quick look at the top of the case, as we already spoke about in this review, the whole top of the case is completely ventilated, and you can see exactly where the fans would go. Now you can see that there are ventilation holes here, but obviously on the top there is a panel between the ventilation holes on top and these ventilation holes. Now the fans that you can get for these are completely optional, but if you do decide to get them, you can fit either 120mm fans or 140mm fans. And now taking a look at the bottom of the case, you can see where the power supply would actually slide in, and there are little rubber stops on there as well, which will help once again with anti-vibration properties. And there is actually a panel that you can pull out from the underneath of the case, and obviously you can take this off and clean it if there is any dust on it. Now other things that you will notice on the bottom of the case is that it has got this little dust panel here. Now this is for, yet again, another optional fan. Now the optional fan that you can put in here, because it doesn't come with one pre-installed is either 120mm or 140mm, and it already comes with a dust filter pre-installed. Now taking a look at the PCI brackets, once again very simple and toolless to do. It's just a matter of pulling out and the ventilated PCI port would come out. Once again, pulling out and it comes out. To put it back in, you just slot it back into place, and once it's slotted back into place you can continue to push it down and you'll actually hear it snap into place. Now taking a look at the bottom of the case, you can see exactly where that dust filter was that I spoke about for the power supply. Now to take that out, you just slide it out the grooves and you can take it off and clean it. Once it's cleaned, slide it back into the grooves into place. You can also see where the fan would go and obviously the ventilation holes on this side, and as I said you can fit either a 140mm fan or a 120mm fan. They're also 4 feet. The 2 rear ones are a little bit smaller, the 2 front ones are a little bit bigger, and they have got sponge bits actually on the feet, which does help with noise and anti-vibration. As said with the front panel, you may want to take it off from time to time, exactly the same with the rear. There are actually little leverage bits on the inside that you just got to pull into place, and you can actually pull the top of the case off. And you can see exactly where the wires connect for the power buttons, reset buttons, LEDs, and you can see all of the ventilation holes here. So it is a matter that you can obviously see all the ventilation holes for the fans, and you can always give it a good clean. It's quite good that the way that this case completely comes apart. Obviously the sides come off, the front comes off, the top comes off. So if, for instance, you do live in an area where you get a lot of dust, this is going to be really, really handy. For someone like myself, I live near a main road, so dust is a great problem, and having a white case is going to be a real problem for dust. So being able to take all these panels off and giving them a good spring clean is a fantastic idea. This case is fantastic. I mean, it ticks all the right boxes. Firstly, it's stylish. What more could you ask for than a white case? The only slight problem with that, you can't really get white optical drives and drives that are going to go and be a show on the front of the panel. But if you get black ones, it should be quite a nice little sort of contrast between the black and the white. The build quality is absolutely fantastic. Xigmatek have really done a good job on that, and also the functionality, even down to the thumb screws to get the side panels off, the front and the top panels being able to lift off so you can clean them and fit fans, and also the fact that if you're installing a hard drive, optical drive or expansion card, it's completely toolless as well. I can't find any fault with it really, so I'd recommend it.